we're seeing a ton of value get created is in using predictive technologies, but to forecast quality. And that's something that, happens sort of 24/7 as opposed to a machine that might fail 3 weeks from now. If you can impact quality and you can optimize quality, you're really driving tremendous value into every minute of the operational environment.
Hello, my name is Robert Schmidt. I'm Deloitte's Chief IoT Technologist, also known as Mr. IoT. Welcome to my Coffee with Mr. IoT weekly show. Today, my guest, Howard Hepplemann, the General Manager of Connected Operations versus Connected Products, I guess.
Exactly.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks for being here. It's always great to have you on. We are actually live at LiveWorx. Pun intended. How many times have you done LiveWorx?
Well, I've been part of the PTC annual user conference for 20-some years, but really we branded it LiveWorx about 5 years ago, and it's taken on a kind of a completely different perspective around IoT and AR, and so I guess you'd say 5 years, but it's really a 5-year-old kind of show.
I noticed today we set up our booth downstairs. It's like almost double the size on the show floor. Is that pretty much that the show has grown to double?
Yeah, we've been, I think when we started, if I back up again 5 years ago, we had about 2,000 people attending the show. And I think this year we're forecasting 9,000 or so. So it's been this steady, 20+% increase every year. And by the way, you guys have a nice location on the floor.
I know, it's awesome. I love the big sign that's above us that's hanging there. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but we got told we can't go any higher. I wanted to raise it because there were some containers that I was concerned about. So there's no max height for non-PTC. I tried anyhow.
Yeah,
it's a great location. It's a great location. I really love it. I don't know if you stop by, we have an empty booth with a bathtub and a huge 30 by 30 marker that spawns a full factory floor actually this year. So I hope you get to stop by.
Very cool. I will definitely be by.
So, tell me what's your favorite part about LiveWorx, and what is LiveWorx for you like? Give us a little bit of a flavor of your experience of LiveWorx working for PTC.
Yeah, well, a big piece of LiveWorx for me is the 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time that go into planning it and getting ready for it and all of that. But I think what's really cool about this show is that we try to bring the customer experience to life. Maybe that's why we call it LiveWorx. But each year we're showing, just like you guys do with the demo that you just described, we're trying to put the customer in some replicated environment that looks and feels kind of like what they would expect if they were back home in their office or in their factory. So this year, for example, it starts with, designers in the office designing products and innovating and things like that, and then passes through the factory where we're actually showing how you build products, and ultimately those products show up in the field. And there's a whole experience around customer operation and customer service. So I think the thing that makes the show in many ways stand out technologically is how we bring it all together into a story. And then I would have to say the second favorite thing for me for LiveWorx is the partners. And that's, I'm joking a little bit, but not really, because this is the one time where our customers get to show up and have exposure to the complete ecosystem. And I think, as any of us know who are in this IoT space, it's an ecosystem play. At the end of the day, generally orchestrated by companies like Deloitte, et cetera. And so being able to provide an environment where customers can understand the breadth of the technology, but also network with the ecosystem, I think is hugely valuable to them.
So LiveWorx, it's an experience, right? I don't know, the way I explained it to my team is I want our visitors to have an experience, and you talked about this too, your visitors have a live experience while they're down there. What's your experience like when you come to LiveWorx? Because it's very different for people who come in to visit versus you, general manager of a big part of the company. What goes on for you the whole week?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't get as much opportunity as I'd like to be part of the keynotes and the sessions and even the show floor where customers are filtering through. but only because my time is occupied with customers and I can think of no better way to spend my time. So I pretty much have meetings that started today around noon and they will go until Thursday evening at 6. And at this point, I have no time left in my calendar. And so I'll have to work in the show floor, and the keynote, I guess, is something that we all have blocked out on our calendar. But for me, it's just intense.
Are you up there with
time.
your brother tomorrow?
No, I'm not. I'm not on stage with him tomorrow.
Have you been with him on stage?
I have not for a while, but yeah, it's probably best if we don't have the two of us on stage at the same time.
That's funny. Okay. So lots of client meetings, lots of meetings
Yep.
with partners we met today, had a really productive conversation about what works and what we can do more of and so forth. So
Yep.
interesting. Okay. Do you go afterwards and sort of like take things and say, yeah, there's like big findings out of LiveWorx for you, or is it truly about clients? When you think back to last year compared to this year, are there any particular differences that you really wanted to make sure happened this year are different for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you notice, things that don't flow, et cetera. I mean, mostly I leave that in the hands of the marketing team. And, we have a big company-wide retrospective of what worked well and what didn't go well, and, of course, surveys and all of that. But marketing team does a pretty good job of fielding that and handling it.
Very cool, very cool. So tell us a little bit about connected operations. What does that mean for you? What's included in this? I know it's sort of like, I think of it as manufacturing. I think it's actually much more than that. I like the term connected operations, but give us a little bit of an insight what that encompasses for you.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the best way to do that is to go through a little bit of history. So PTC has always sold to companies that make products, and generally the OEMs. Think industrial products, trains, planes, automobiles, tractors, those kinds of things. And we call that smart connected products. But then, and that's really where the customer is, planning and designing in the connectivity that they want with the right feedback loops to their organization to improve engineering, sales and marketing, service, et cetera. The other side of the equation, though, is where customers don't have control of the data feeds that are in the devices, and they're acting more as owner and operators of heterogeneous sources of equipment, sensors, and IT systems, and need to bring all that together to drive productivity in their operations. So that's what we call connected operations. Think factories, obviously, four-walled factories, but mines, oil and gas facilities, could be a company that's providing or running a factory on behalf of a customer. Really the key differentiator there is I'm focused on owner-operators, people who are buying equipment, deploying systems, and then trying to bring those systems together in a converged IT/OT world and drive innovation across that sort of disparate environment that they're in.
When you think of connected operations, you and I talked about this, I think it's over a year ago when you started introducing your applications that you've built, various managers and so forth.
Yep.
But one of the things you told me, which fascinated me, was you said, even if we can't give them all the features, even giving them insights is a huge step forward for many. And I've seen this in places. I walk around and I see HMIs that just, if they don't see it on the HMI, it's dead. They don't see it afterwards because they don't store it. What would be some other examples that you have seen in the connected operations space that really surprised you as good use cases for IoT?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing, and it's really in collaborating with companies like Deloitte as well, we now have a pretty rich inventory of use cases. Generally, you can lump those into 4 big solution areas. So one would be real-time operational intelligence, or we call that enterprise operational intelligence. Another is around optimizing the asset. We refer to that as intelligent asset optimization, workforce productivity. And then I think an interesting thing in the factory today is this idea of scalable production management. But those are 4 big categories that probably have anywhere from 9 to 15 use cases driving them. But I think some of the ones that are emerging that may be a little bit of a surprise, although I guess it was always a question of when, not if, is the application of like predictive analytics to improve quality. You know, the industry talked about predicting machine failure and predictive maintenance, and where we're seeing a ton of value get created is in using predictive technologies, but to forecast quality. And that's something that, you know, happens sort of 24/7 as opposed to a machine that might fail 3 weeks from now. If you can impact quality and you can optimize quality, you're really driving tremendous value into every minute of the operational environment. So, predictive quality, we continue to see more and more opportunity around visualization of the enterprise in real time. You know, that one to me it's something we've done well, but I find it somewhat incredulous that factory managers, operators wouldn't be managing the factory with real-time data. I mean, it's not to say it's anyone's sort of fault, but the opportunity there to go from reports that were generated last shift or yesterday or 3 days ago, shipped off to some data lake, and then to try to use that data to run what's happening now is really an upside down value proposition that I think collectively we're having a great opportunity driving transformation around.
So I'm looking forward 5 years or 3 years out. What do you think we're going to see at LiveWorx that we're not seeing yet this year?
That's a very good question. I think the team is finding it challenging to always come up with something bigger, bolder, better than the year before. I think we're going to try to keep this theme going of putting on display real customer environments. I don't know. I could see a world in the future where a factory is fully digitized, and you know, we're having a virtual walkthrough of a real production environment, maybe that's happening someplace else as part of LiveWorx. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think with the advances in the AR, VR, mixed reality, blending that with IoT and analytics, I think it's really a wide open space. There could be a lot of interesting things.
Do you think there is a day when we're not going to meet in person like this anymore, and it's truly going to be a place where we could be at different places and it's a virtual LiveWorx?
Kind of hope not. No, I mean, I think obviously technology can make us all more efficient, but a lot of the value of an event like this is the networking, again, that customers get, not just with PTC, but the ecosystem, and quite frankly, mostly among themselves. And I'm not sure that the technology, even if it can do that, will replace the human side of the equation of people wanting to stare somebody in the eyes and have a beer and have a conversation. So I think we're a long ways from LiveWorx becoming a virtual event.
It's interesting to me. I actually agree with you in the sense that I enjoy the personal interaction. There's a social aspect that I think virtual can never replace. However, I think also of people who can't travel, and I often think of this in terms of we have so many conference calls. And I don't know, I find there's resistance, I'd say, to video calls. Do you do video calls a lot with your team, or do you still? So you did transition to more video. How do you find video calls? Are they almost as good as in person, much better than phone? How do you feel about it? For me, that's a pre-step to it's sort of like this virtual meeting thing versus.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably a laggard here. I haven't fell in love yet with video conferencing. To me, there's a dynamic that happens when you're in the room with people that I don't think can ever, be replaced by, you can see them, but it's just, I find even when we're on video calls that it doesn't necessarily draw the people that are dialed in as close as the people that are in the room. So I'm probably just a slow adopter there for sure, but I don't know. I love the occasional face-to-face human interaction and collaboration, and I think the bigger the group gets, the more valuable, let's say, that becomes.
It's funny. I've noticed. I've tried to do more video calls. Many of us are remote, and so many of us, they come on and then there's a black screen, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And they have like the little window they need to pull aside because it's got sticky over it. So I always get a giggle out of that.
I would say though that to your point, I mean, to be able to extend the reach is important. And for example, I think last year we had 6,000-7,000 people at LiveWorx here, and another, I believe it was 9,000 that had dialed in for the opening keynote. So I do think that the idea of making extending the sessions, extending even probably the days, is something that hopefully we continue to do, because as you say, there are a lot of people who would love to participate who can't be there in person, yet can get something out of remote participation for sure. So
interesting. So I want to close with a question that's a little more sort of like, you get to see lots of tech, and you really, I mean, you guys developed the leading software about connecting things. What things have you connected at home?
Oh my gosh. Well, I haven't done this yet, but I'm about to order a new smoker. And one of the defining features was the ability to be able to have a sensor in it so that I could monitor from my phone when I needed to, sort of how to keep it operational.
The smoker or what's in the smoker?
Well, the combination of the two, right? In terms of monitoring the time, monitoring the heat, monitoring everything without having to stand over it and watch it. I have a relatively smart home, so HVAC systems, cameras, sound, all of that is connected. But I wouldn't say I don't necessarily geek out about that kind of stuff. So more gadgety kind of stuff. I have I have a hot tub that's connected, things like that.
Oh, your hot tub is connected.
Yeah. So
nice. I have a tip for you. My smoker isn't connected, but I have what's called Meter, MEATER, and it's little sensors, like 4 of them, and you stick them into your meat, and it measures the temperature, and then sends the information about it to your phone. It's one of those fun campaign things. It took way long to get it, but now we play with it. It's funny, my wife still thinks she knows better what goes on with the meat than the thermometer, but that's sort of like the conversation we have. But she smokes an awesome brisket. We have the best brisket. So Meter, if you want to know what's going on with the meat,
I will go
check it out.
I will look at that for sure.
All right, thanks so much for being here. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you.
Robert, thank you, and thanks for bringing yourself and the broader Deloitte team. We value the partnership tremendously and look forward to keep on advancing it. Thanks.
It's always my highlight of the year because we work all year, sort of like the new thing we have. We always bring to LiveWorx first, and then we'll take it from there. So it's always fun. So thank you.
Sounds good.
And with that, our coffee chat is coming to an end. Thanks for watching Coffee with Mr. IoT and Howard Hepplemann today. For any previous shows, please check out the playlist, and don't forget to subscribe. Coffee Chat with Mr. IoT. Have a great one. Bye.